Oh boy. Hi guys. Um I I got turned around today and I barely made it. So let me ask first of all, is the sound okay and the video? Hey Geezer and John and hey the rancher Joseph, how are you? Javier, how's it going? Johnny, get your gun right. Okay, good. Everything's working. Whew. Um, Now, Bruce, at 5 o'clock, the punters are having their talk, right? Just to make sure they. I missed it last time, but because of change schedules and changes and so on and so forth, so we want to get that squared away. Okie doke. Watch and pray. Hi. No, I think ID guy is on. Okay. Um, I don't know. I'm not sure. All right, here's what I was talking about. After this whole thing that we talked about this morning, which was hi Rohit, how are you? Uh, that we talked about this morning about these guys that got into trouble, they disappeared, nobody knows what happened to them, and so I started thinking about that. I said, well, here we have these guys. Okay, not on today. All right. Cancel that. The pundits aren't on today. Sorry. Okay. Slime Piece Metal Man. Okay. Hi, John. All right. So let's take a look at some things. Now, last year we started a project with Agonor, and we had talked about a lot of different things. We were talking about having a what are they called? Retrograde, setting up with a minute retrograde with a jumping hour. Okay. Uh, there were there ended up to be more problems than that than I realized, and one of the big problems was expense because here these guys they were making a custom movement for us. So I thought about that, and what I did, I was reminded of Philippe Dufour's singular watch called the Simplicity. And I thought, this is something that we maybe ought to sort of take as a model if we're going to get started. Now, here is why I think it may be worth our time. Um, in publishing, the rule of thumb was that a book retail price should be 10 times what the production price was. Now, the production price was basically to get the book printed and so on and so forth, the cost that went into that, edited and so forth. Okay. So you have a book, let's say you have a book for $5, that was your production cost, and it should sell for $50. All right, now some people in watch production said, yeah, ours is about the same. And so I'm thinking, all right, so let's take a look at the watches that would really, really like to have. Ones by F.P. Jorn, Kari Voutilainen, what's his name? Uh, Laurent Ferrier, uh, all of these guys who are really, really good and really expensive. Okay, all right. We can't afford them, and every now and then we'll get lucky. I think I got extremely lucky on that Urban Jurgensen because I got it at half price. Now, if it cost, if you can make a watch for 1/10 of the retail price, then maybe that's something that we could say, okay, so let's see everything that we would have to do. The first thing we'd have to get a movement made, and that cost. Now we know we have contacts with Agenor, and instead of asking for something with their most basic movement, um, and then put on top of that a retrograde, maybe we ought to rethink that and say, look, what is the most basic movement that you have? And the only thing we would want is time. Let me just bring these up. You can see these. These are ones I had put these up on High Horology Lounge. Actually, it was the other way around. I made them for our talk today. Now, here's a simplicity, and they have two different dials on it, but they're essentially the same. You have time only with small seconds rather than center seconds. Um, why small seconds instead of center seconds? Usually it's to make the watch thinner. With center seconds, you have to make it a little fatter. All right. So that's one thing. So you have a really simple watch. Now, that watch, if you can find them in an auction, they're starting to go for, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, they were selling for around $400,000. Okay, I think when they first came out, they were 30 or 40. They were not cheap, but they were at least sort of within a certain kind of grasp. If we got lucky, you could find one. And one of the reasons is that this is a shot of the movement. This is part of the balance wheel, and this is one of the finger bridges that they have. All right, so you have this, and the finishing on this is just superb. Okay, and here's a close up of the dial, and one of the things that Philippe Dufour did that was really cool was that he let the name of the dial maker to put their name here. I mean, a lot of times you don't see that. The name of the dial maker is Medellin, and I looked them up, and we could have them make the dial. So now here is sort of the parts that we may be able to put together. Okay, so we get Agenor give us something really simple. And this is really simple. And one thing I think, if we're going to have a special watch, what would be special about it? And in terms of constant force, and one thing would be a nice big balance. The reason that balance is constant force, you have less inertia or more inertia, one of the two. So that thing is swinging, and it stays swinging, staying steady. Sort of a funny thing. I reminded my dad flew in World War II in Korea, and one of the planes that he flew was a B-29, big old thing. And when I was learning to fly, I without his encouragement, believe me, he's afraid I'd do what happened to a lot of pilots. He said, I was talking about how to, coming in, you're setting up on final for a landing, and you want to get the plane set up for the right speed, the right angle, and so on and so forth, so you land on the airport and not somewhere else. And he said, with a bigger plane, he said, once you get the thing set up, it is very, very steady. On these smaller planes, you can get bounced around by just about anything. And so setting up was, it was an unending job. You get set up, and then you're dancing on the pedals and on that. So the same is true with a bigger balance. The bigger balance, once you get that thing going, it's very steady, and that leads to a lower frequency. And so I thought this would be a great watch, because this is what these guys are doing. Take a look at the Laurent Ferrier. All of them have a lower frequency, the 3 hertz or less for the most part. This would be a cool thing to get a 2.5 hertz, have a nice big balance wheel, and that would be it. I mean, nothing fancy. Saying, "Look, this is all we want, and this is how much that we can spend for the whole project." And so that's what I wanted to kick around with you. And this is not fancy, but this is sort of taking on, and then we can, if we had Agenor do the movement, hard to get better than Agenor. The Wooten, Lannon, and Kalin get one of their cases, get the dial instead of this guy here that I met. The dial would be get one from Metalin. Okay, now this could be a really, really cool watch that we could afford. Okay, so that's my idea. So let's see what you have to say. Okay, let's see. Okay, all right. Hi Hans, how you doing? Tim, good to see you. Um, Hi Aurora the Tiger, how you been? Forbin, hi Forbin. And given the complication, one might say it's been a tale of Agenor and the Ekis. Oh God, that's a Forbin. That's so bad. Okay. Ugh. Okay. All right. So let's see what ideas you have. Let's see. What do you got? Okay. In Norcar Lane. Hi, Norcar Lane. I guess that's your name. uh, plus, I don't know what you're doing there. Okay. Philip to 4 adds up to 8. Oh, Jesus. Hello, Norcar Lane. How you doing? All right, so let's see. Constant Force, the new watch from Steve. Jeez. See what you've done? Now you got the Rancher going now. Jeez. All right. Okay. Hi, Joseph. Let's see. Abdul. Hi, Abdul. Marco. Okay, obviously. I love that. But things start with obviously. Look out. All right, Marco, here we go. Obviously, Dufour is deserving of our admiration, but I just don't see him stacking up well against Kari Vuitalainen, who is equally good finishing and the best dials in the world. Marco, this isn't the point to argue, okay? We've got we're this was simply okay. We'll include Kari Vuitalainen. This is for producing a watch, not for. Come on. All right. I mean, it's enough to who's going to argue about which one's better. All right. Okay. Yes, he rancher was my dad, Colonel Sanders. Oddly enough, yes. No, not of KFC. Otherwise, they wouldn't be talking to you. I'd be living a high life somewhere. Bigger balance, more mass, higher inertia. That's right, Rowan. Thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for. So your movement is best balanced while flying in the big birds. Yeah, that makes sense. So, oh God, I would fly on the other side of the mountains from San Diego. You get into the desert pretty quick, and they have these when you fly over mountains and stuff. You get these upward. You get two things. One, you get these upward wind bumps, and you also get thermals. And so you can get one day I took a flight. It was like getting bounced around like a like a bean in a coffee can, just like that, because a little plane doesn't. But so here we have a larger movement, okay, and we're nice and steady. All right. Hi, Miko Ludic. How you doing? Okay, the dial is still fairly expensive. Small output. Yeah, I think so. I don't think the dial would cost us that much, really. Hey, Tony. Um, I prefer the traditional dial as opposed to the retro. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is what we're going for, Raj. This is sort of like we're resetting everything for two reasons. One, for something I think more people would like. So we're going for very, very, traditional dial. Something here. Where is it? Right here. These are a couple examples of simple dials, and they're good examples in this respect. This one has Guilloche, um, Dauphine hands, and Arabic numbers, and this one has Breguet hands and Roman numerals. They have their track on the outside or the track on the inside. This is like sort of the tail of the dog, though. Okay, the head of the dog is the movement, then the case, and then the dial and the hands. Once we get all of those decided, we can move on from there. Okay, so let's get some ideas from you. Okie doke. The dial is still fairly expensive, small output. All right. I prefer the traditional. Okay, you want the traditional dial. Now, hang on. Here we go. All right, let's see. Um, Only the consensus of the case size is required. The consensus of the case size. All right, here was the size I was thinking, 39 millimeters. Um, that would be something that we could discuss. Now, the we could have them in size we want. I was looking at 39 millimeters as sort of something that guys who like the smaller size watches and the guys who like the larger size, sort of in between. And also of steel, not gold or platinum, just steel, not even titanium. Hi, Flip and Zippo. Okay, price, question mark. Okay, now this is something we got to decide on. We got to have a higher, what's going to be the high limit. Keeping in mind that if we do this ourselves, the have the movement made, get a case that will fit it, either that or we could even make arrangements to have a size that is sort of will fit, different size cases. And then get a dial that will go with the whole thing and to put it all together. And again, this would be a very simple watch, not anything fancy. About the only thing that I think would be horologically nice to have would be the big balance wheel. Not double barrels and parallel or anything complicated, just straight up. Because last time I think we were going complicated because we had a basic movement and this was put on top of the basic movement. And what I'm thinking, just get the basic movement and go from there, which would be a lot less expensive, I think. And it may be, in fact, as far as I'm concerned, I think could be an off the shelf thing that they already have, which I think might be a much better thing for us and for them because we're not talking about what more and not too many. I don't know how many would be involved, but I was thinking top price 7,500. Now it could be lower than that, but I don't know if we could get what we need. I think most of the expenditure would be on the movement. We're not talking about expenditures. We wouldn't have any marketing. There would be no profit margin because there's no profit in it. I mean, I was told, well, I heard, I should say, and I believe it, that Patek Philippe ADs they charge 100. They put 100% markup, and so if they got a watch that they got to shell out $10,000 for, the price tag has got to be $20,000 on it. Okay, so I mean, the ADs do pretty well if they can sell it. right now we're having a seller's market. They ought to do pretty good. Okay, so let's see. 39 millimeters is about ideal. That's what I was thinking, Tony. I mean, it's not too big, not too small. And if it's a little small for people or a little large for people, it's just a little. Okay, roar. Good. Let's see. For dress. Um, this would be the way I'm sort of thinking about it, especially it would be something that would be a really good everyday watch. Sort of like this. This is a good everyday watch. It's big, but it's, I mean, you know, it's not I can wear every day, and it's also can work as a dress watch. Um, yeah, those are sort of my sweet spot too, Joseph. 38, 39, 40. Anything much bigger than that or much smaller than that would be sort of shaking the boat. I may have missed, but I see the see-through case is part of the plan. Absolutely. Here we're gonna have a this is Foreman's course. Does this include the exhibition window on the back? And we're gonna have, you know, we're talking about, you know, somebody making movements that are really good looking movements. There, what I was told when I talked to Nicholas Viderek was that the what we wanted, the amount of finishing, there's like level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. They have people who do the finishing for them. And so this is something we'd have to, you know, depending on how much it would cost. If it didn't cost too much, you know, naturally you'd want to get the very best. If there was a huge difference between one level and another, then we might want to go somewhere in between. I mean, we want something better than a 318. I'll put it that way. Hey, Mark J, how you doing? Instead of stainless steel for the case, try gunmetal. Oh, let's make it goofy right away. Huh? Gunmetal is cool, but I don't know how. I mean, how accessible it is, adding cost, and for what. You know, maybe see this is something that, you know, there's no reason that someone says, well, I want this, I want a gold one. They go out and get a gold case for it. That's not hard. Blue TGV. No idea what you're talking about there. Let's see. Gunmetal rusts faster than lightning. John, that's good to know. 1921 is so nice. Thanks, Marco. Well, see this, but really, when you look at it, it's a simple watch. This is it's off. You know, it's simply to one side, but it's got hours, minutes, and small seconds. That's, I mean, when you, and this is what I'm hoping that we can have. We can have a really, really good watch that we, because we're focusing on the important elements of it. Okay, 7,500 is reasonable, but if the watch is dispatched from Switzerland, I have to pay 20. That's a problem. That's a good point, Raj. There are a lot of people. I guess there's you know, a lot of Europeans would have a 20% markup because of VAT or something equivalent to that. We wouldn't. That's one thing that I think, at least I'm very happy that we do right. The customs charge on watches is like about 1.5%. So, you know, that's pretty good. Roar the Tiger. I think the case range has been agreed upon. Therefore, the determining factor would really be the lug tip to tip measurement. Okay, that's something else we could talk about. Also, the type of lugs. Well, last time we talked about having teardrop lugs. I still like teardrop lugs. I think teardrop lugs would be very cool. Daily office watch can also be worn as a dress watch. Yeah, Tony, that's pretty much what I was thinking. You know, to get started, have a really nice, you know, this, and especially this would be about as simple as possible, keeping the cost down, but while keeping the quality up. That's going to be the trick. You're living in the past. We are past the 30 to 35. Yeah, I agree. That, yeah, this is why he's going for 39. I mean, I'm missing some of these, I realize, but yeah, I think, there's certain things about the smaller size, and there's some people that, it's really good for, but this is why I'm saying 39 is sort of a compromise. Especially if you get older, you need you can see it. Um, for the finishing, let's go with the level 4 for the highest level they have. Well, let's find out about cost first, Mark. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for having really good finishing on these things, but we've got to have, you can't have top level finishing and then really good case, or we'd have to cut back on something else. And so this is that kind of balancing act. Um, I I like the idea. Before we talked about having a nice simple. How are we going to have? What was enamel? Having an enamel movement. Something like this. Nice, just sort of a white background with the either Roman or uh, Arabic. I tend to like the Arabic numbers better, but not these are like about as dull as you can get. Here, these are really, I don't know if you can see it or not, but these are nice. I really like the fonts on this one, but there's so many watches with that kind of font. I was thinking, something a little more elegant, but without being exactly like every other watch that has it. Um, let's do the teardrop lugs, Roman numerals, and Breguet hands. Okay. We need to have a decent order size, or else the cost per piece will be way too high. Rohit, that's another issue too. I mean, see, I think last time, I don't know how many people were sort of like saying, okay, yeah, they want to do it, but we're going to have, if once we make the order, we're going to have some commitment. And by commitment, I mean, it's someone's going to have to say, look, we got to get started. I'm going to put down $1,000, and let's say we could set up some kind of escrow account where that would go into. Once that was into, a person was committed, they don't get it back if they back out. Now, if they don't make the movement or something, they get their money back. But I think that the way to start with this is as much as we can on the movement without while still having enough for the case and the dial and the hands, of course. I'd be tickled if this watch is more Swiss than the Swiss labeled watches. Yes, that would be cool. See, this is the thing though, you're talking about $7,500, right? This is what, but this is without the markup. This is without the marketing or anything else. Because if we use that 10 times figure, this would be a $75,000 watch. So, I think we can, if we're smart about this and don't, go off on every wild hair we can think of, then I think we can, bring this in not only at a very reasonable price, but as one that would, you know, we'd have a watch that I think would be worth a fortune, uh, a horological fortune. The idea wouldn't be like, oh, let's see if we can get a high resale value. Not the point. The point is to get a really nice watch. Hi, Robert D. How are you? Um, the numerals should not remind me of a mantle clock. Yeah, I agree. Um, I sort of I I tend to like Arabic numbers more than Roman numerals, but that they don't want to do this. This is one, actually. This is one I quite like a lot. This is my pocket watch. that I had, and look at those Roman numerals. They look like indexes without, they're so small and fine. But I think, well, that's one thing we can talk about. There's another possibility too. Let's say that we go and we talk to the dial maker, and the dial maker says, well, hey guys, I can make X, half of them I can have with Roman numerals, the other half I can have with Arabic numerals. See, there's some options that we might want to be able to do, because we're sort of in the production. I don't know how far this would go. If somebody says, well, I want one with flowers on it, and probably not. Um, Okay, if we all agree on a teardrop lugs, can't you use the same cases as those used by Opium, made by Atelier Kari Voet and Lonnen? Well, Marco, they were made by Voet and Lonnen and Callan, uh, case makers, and that's exactly who we had in mind. Um, Okay, I guess it's my time. It's frying pan time. Okay, let me see if someone else. Do we have to arrive at a common consensus on the design elements? We need to have a poll or something. Um, Everyone is committed to the final selection. Okay. Uh, let's see. Those skinny ones are perfect Romans. Hey, let's see. Okay, I think a possibility of making one numerals of each of the systems, so we get Arabic, Easter in. Okay. Um, okay, the dial pricing goes higher with enamel due to high reject. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Um, okay, well, listen. Um, my time is up. I want to thank you all, but this is just the first conversation we've had on this. What we got to do, I think, there are all kinds of other possibilities. There was another thing too that I was thinking about, is that one of the before we were talking about, we just buy the pieces and then put it together. Some of us wouldn't have a problem with that. But on the other hand, there's my 85-year-old watchmaker who seems to do it by, touch and sense of smell. He's really good. Say, maybe, some local guys, pay them $100 to put it together. And for you guys who've got the 20% VAT, would a better solution for you? You buy the case, and somebody sends you the case, and somebody sends you the movement, and this and that, and sort of do it that way. I don't know if that still applies, but there's some things that I guess you're going to have to know your own country. Uh, the I bought a design. The On the beginning of Watch Art's side, there's an animation, and the animator is this guy in Holland, and they had some crazy laws about when they had to charge somebody else the 20% VAT, and so I if I bought it as an individual, they'd have to charge a 20% VAT. If I bought it as a company, which I have my own company, they wouldn't. So I bought it as my own company. And so he did better than that. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So let's think about this. And next week we can talk about it more. I'm going to try to get more information. I'd like to. What do you think of the idea of contacting Metalim? These guys, because there are a lot of other dial makers that we could talk to, but I thought it would be sort of cool to have dial by the same dial maker for Dufour, the case maker, the Voet and Kalen. Just a thought. Um, Okay, guys. All right. Well, anyway, think about that. You know, try to find out something yourself. Maybe you could find something that we could all do this with.